Hello and welcome to Beyond the Scale, Weight Loss and Wellness. I'm your host, Coach Monica. I'm joined today by Coach Darcy, and we are here to guide you through the ins and outs of a lifestyle that's transformed not just our lives, but the lives of countless women navigating the waves of perimenopause and menopause. Whether you're here to shed weight, understand your body better, or simply find a community that gets it, you're in the right place. So sit back and enjoy the next few minutes as we tackle the hot issues of today. Welcome, everybody, to Beyond the Scale. We're so happy you're here today. And we are getting ready to start kind of like a mini series. So Coach Darcy, Are you ready for this?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Yeah.
I like the sporadic, let's just dive into this.
Yeah. So typically, just so you know, kind of behind the scenes, what we do typically is we put together a plan and we kind of know where we're going and we've got bullet points. We're really professional behind the scenes. This topic we've been working on for a long time because there's a lot of feels in this. And so we've been working on it on paper for a long time. And I'll tell you what I did with my notes and my paper.
You took notes?
I did. I took notes. I had bullet points. I had this was what I'm going to say here. And I took those notes and I put them in the trash.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Because
you didn't give me the opportunity to write notes down.
I know. I just feel like this is a very sensitive topic. Yeah. And you know me, I am not afraid of any topic. I'm not afraid to talk about anything, but this one kind of hits in the feels. And a lot of people would ask us, why are you talking about these sensitive subjects? And I can tell you the answer to that. We are talking about it because we sit with men and women every day for 8 hours a day who are struggling with these very same issues. And they think they're alone and they think they're weird. Perhaps they think their marriage is in trouble. Perhaps they think that they are in trouble and that if they continue down the weight loss road, things could get worse. And so we sit with this reality. I joke all the time that 10% of what we do is calories and 90% of what we do is sitting with people and listening. And that's really actually very, very accurate. You know, it's easy to tell people what to eat. It's easy to troubleshoot. We've got that down. We have 6 years of active practice and, being very, very successful in what we do. And so that's easy. That's like the back of our hand. You know, we have a set of questions we ask our clients and it's on the back of our hand. Well, you are eating too much dairy. You are eating way too many nuts. You are obsessed with the scale and you need to throw your scale away. You know, we know those things. However, after we're done with that, it's like, okay, now let's talk about the real issues. What are the real issues behind what you're feeling right now? And I think these issues are in stages. And so this is going to be a series. In fact, we're going to bring our husbands in to this series. At least mine has agreed to. Hopefully he'll cooperate.
Mark has, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to bring, because we want to do a full circle. We want to do all sides of this. It's really cool that Darcy and I have different stories and different, different progressions of our journey. So we're going to probably break this up into a couple of sessions because we're just going to cut it off if if we are done talking for this session. But we feel like it's important for you to know that you're not broken and you're not weird and you're not abnormal if you're going through some of these feelings, because our bodies, minds, and spirits are connected. And when one is sick, it impacts everything else. And I'm going to include our relationships in there as well. This is a very scary journey for people who have not walked this. And a lot of people think that if I just lose weight, everything's going to be okay. And what they don't realize is they have just opened a can of worms when they begin to lose weight. So we're just going to start out by talking about the beginning. We're just going to start at the beginning. We may cut it off, a quarter of the way through. That means you'll have to stay tuned to part 2. We're also going to bring in other, along with our marriages, we're going to bring in other relationships as well, because weight loss is a community event. And it impacts our intimacy, it impacts our relationships, it impacts our children. So we may break those up into different segments if we feel like we need to tease out a certain, segment of that population. We're going to start out by talking about marriage, and then we're going to bring our husbands in as well. I can tell you right now, this is a very scary thing for husbands, for men, or for spouses. I'm going to reverse that. Now you're going to hear the women's side on this session. So men, don't get mad at us. We're going to come to you, because, honestly, I don't know what the men's side of it is. And so I am anxious to hear from Brian's side. I know what I think his feelings were, and I'll talk about that. But I don't know what his side of the coin looks like. And we want to bring that perspective in. Weight loss and health impacts relationships. This is a community event. This is why so many people fail when it comes to weight loss and health, because we have enablers. We have people who don't understand what we're doing. And when we draw the circle really close to home, it starts right there. So I don't know, Darcy, do you want to start out or do you want me to start? I didn't ask you that at the beginning.
I'm good with either
Okay.
way. Either way. Yeah.
Let me start. I will start since I guess since my journey was first, and that may trigger some things on your end, because your journey kind of starts a quarter of a way into mine, or maybe on the other side a little bit. But
because
you just have
Mark's journey starts a quarter into yours.
Mark started first.
No, like we'll get to it when I
All
explain mine. Yeah.
So in the beginning, I need to say that never one time did my husband ever complain about my weight. He never made me feel subpar. He never made me feel like I was anything but the most beautiful woman in the world, which is why I have trust issues with him now. Never once. Now, when we first got married, I was not skinny, but I didn't have the weight issue. The weight issue for me began in my first pregnancy. When they say eat for two, they don't really mean that. They're not supposed to mean that.
No.
But I took them seriously, and I was probably eating for twins. I had a lot of morning sickness. I just felt yuck. I was young. I was 21 when I was pregnant.
That means I was like 7 years old.
You were
maybe 8.
The fluttering butterfly in my life.
I was
right?
like 8.
Yes. So I was young. We were living in about an hour away from my parents. And so I was kind of isolated. And when we got pregnant, I was the first out of, the whole family. I was the first to do anything, the first on Brian's side to do anything. And so, I was not focused on my weight. I was very, very sick through the pregnancy. And that's when my weight journey began. And then we had 4 children. And so they were about two years apart. So I'd have a year to recover. But no one ever told me how to get the baby weight off. It was just not talked about. Like,
you mean it wasn't because of breastfeeding?
No, it was not.
Those are lies.
No, those are complete lies. Yeah. But nobody talked about it. There was not anything said about how to get the baby weight off, what I was eating, how to eat. That education was just not there. And so I just continued to gain and gain and gain. And then I became a part of the lobbying world. I got involved in politics. And that is what threw me into a tailspin. But again, throughout that entire time, not ever one time did Brian look at me any different than he ever did. Like there was never even a hint that I was overweight. I never felt beautiful. Never felt beautiful, but he did everything on his side to make me feel beautiful. And so I never knew there was a problem. And in fact, today he will look at those pictures and say, I don't remember that woman. And I can see it in his eyes when he tells me, I don't remember that woman. That's not what I saw. And so it freaks him out a little bit. Um, and so it wasn't until I think he oversaw the cartoon of me being obese. Now, I always knew I was obese. I always knew that I couldn't fit in the Senate seats. There were these little theater seats when you would have to testify before the Senate, and I
Hmm.
couldn't ever fit in those. So I always knew, and the weight really impacted my mind. Um, but again, never a word from Brian, never a complaint, nothing. Um, until I started to lose the weight, and everybody knows my story of how my weight changed with my son wanting to go to the amusement park with us and me realizing I couldn't fit on the roller coasters. And that began my journey. I could tell when I started that journey, Brian was like, oh, another one, another diet. Cause I did diets my whole life.
Hmm.
I starved myself. I did laxatives. I did all of those things. And so when I first started that, he was like, all right, very supportive, very, very supportive, and never a complaint. Never even a single bit of a complaint. He never sabotaged me. He never tried to make me go off plan, but he was just like, you could tell he was waiting for me to fail. And he may tell you completely different. And by the way, if our husbands tell another side of this, they're real, right?
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
perspective is reality. So,
Yes.
so you can believe both sides of this. Um, and so anyway, when I lost about 20 pounds, I would say he would always say he was proud of me. When I lost about 20 pounds, something happened to me. Number one, I lost the pain in my body. I lost the depression. He started to notice that I had a little bit more confidence and his demeanor started to change. At this point, he was happy. I think he was happy to have his wife smiling again. And he was okay because I was still very large. And I was, I had only lost about 20 pounds, but I was getting my confidence back and I was feeling good. The light was shining in my life again. When I hit about 60 pounds, I noticed some things started to change. Um, Things started to get a little bit tense, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I'm like, he would begin to ask me, where are you going? And how long are you going to be there? And let me just put a disclaimer out there. I am a conservative woman. Okay. Can't get any more conservative than me, but in my little tiny heart, there's a little feminist that lives in there. She sometimes peeks her head out. I am fully in belief of biblical truth and the women and the man and what our jobs are. I fully embrace those things. But this little feminist sometimes, Proverbs 31, she is a strong woman. That was me.
Hmm.
That was me. Still is me. And so when he would say, hey, where are you going? I I kind of was like, none of your business. None of your business. Why are you asking? Where have I ever gone? And I started to get a little ouchy about that. And eventually, as I lost more weight, probably when I hit my 100-pound mark, it was probably at its peak because I had about 20 pounds to go still. And it was probably at its peak there where he was being very aggressive with where are you? Um, I could see the panic in his eyes. I could feel it. I could see it. I could sense almost a thing of I'm losing my wife. I couldn't put it into words at the time, but I could sense and I could just see he was starting to get panicked. And at the time, I did not know what was going on inside of him because he didn't tell me. What he didn't tell me was at work, every time a woman lost weight, they had an affair. He didn't tell me that.
Hmm.
And so here I'd lost 100 pounds. I I was changing not only my body, but I was changing my mind. I was changing the inside of me. I was I was throwing my old identity away and getting a new one. So we've got two conflicts here. We've got my conflict of I have no idea who this woman is right now. There was a period of 6 months that I felt nothing. I felt no joy. I felt no anger. I felt like wallpaper paste. And it was the scariest time of my life. Scary. And I believe that was spiritual. I believe God was removing everything so he could fill me with my new identity, my new joy, my new self. And I think that that was a spiritual thing I was going through. However, when you're married, you got to share that healing with your spouse. He's seeing something completely different happening, and I'm experiencing it on the inside, and I was not vocal about it. Um I was not verbal about it because I was scared. I was down clothes size. I was down to a size 6. I was starting to feel sexy again, but I was too scared to say that because I had lived my life hating myself. And so the thought of me saying, Monica, you are beautiful was the most scary thing in the world to me. So I would not let that come out of my mouth, but I was feeling it. I was feeling the curves. I was feeling confidence. Confidence is what scared Brian the most. That is what absolutely freaked him out because I'd not had confidence in 25 years. And so I wore black for 25 years. Suddenly, I'm bringing out the pinks. I'm bringing out the reds. I've got my red shoes on. I am loving this new season that I'm in. I'm feeling confident. I'm going out and I'm at speaking engagements. I'm giving my testimony. I am confident for the first time. Just because I was confident does not mean that I was confident because I was scared to death to embrace this woman that I was told in the beginning of my journey that I would gain all the weight back. I was waiting for that other woman to come back and I was waiting for the shoe to fall. So in the midst of this confidence, I was feeling a very, very scared, almost I was waiting on God to step on me and say, sorry, you can't have this. And so that's what I was wrestling with on the inside. And I started counseling, which was the best thing I ever did. I was actually able to express that to someone who was not judgmental, who held that information, kept it safe for me while I processed that. So I was fixing myself. I was finding myself. I didn't know who I was. And there was a man standing on the other side of me who was terrified, who said, who saw this different person in body form. He loved it. He was like, oh, baby. So he had a new toy, right? And I had to deal with this because he was excited about this, but he was also terrified. And I will let him tell his side about that. And I don't know if he'll get into that. He's not a feelings guy. I'm hoping he will. I can only guess what he was thinking. Um, and then he also had that silent, is she going to leave me? Is this new confidence? Is she going? I always felt when I saw his eyes, I felt like he thought I was 10 steps ahead of him and I was not taking him with me. And on this side I can see it and I think I felt it on that side as well. But eventually what I noticed was he started to change his life as well. So he saw me progressing, he saw me out there changing the color of my clothes, taking care of my body. And he came up to me and after I got my skin removed, he came up to me and said, I want to go on keto. Well, I didn't know this, but he was also feeling the self-esteem issues. He was also feeling 30, 40 pounds overweight. I didn't even, and again, I didn't see it on him. Did not see that he was overweight. So I kind of can compare, but I don't know how to compare 100 pounds versus 40 pounds. I don't know how to do that. But he started to try to run and catch up with me on the health journey. And he did. He absolutely did. But I didn't realize it might have been out of a wrong attitude or a wrong motive because I feel like he felt like he was behind and then I was not taking him with me. So it came to a head. It really came to a head at one point in my journey. And we agreed to go to marriage counseling, which is the best thing you could ever do. If you're going through this, please don't go through it alone because it's normal. You don't have to go to a counselor in shame. I pictured it as when I went to counseling, I pictured it as having all of these words, and I need somebody to sit with me and hold them and give them back to me when I'm ready. That's exactly what she did. And so that happened with Brian and myself. We went to counseling. Um, and it was a very, very healthy stage in this. That's when I found out about the women at his work and the affairs. And my counselor said, Monica, I want you to talk to Brian. I want you to talk to him and let him know that he's safe. Give him a safe place to tell you these things because I would get angry. I'm a stubborn woman and I would get angry and I would um, I would get defensive. Like, what the heck are you thinking? Why would you think that I would go to the grocery store and find another man? Or why do you, I was defensive. And so she took that away and she said, I want you to talk to him. I want you to tell him, tell him he's safe. Tell him, let him off the hook and give him permission to tell you how he's feeling. And then she told Brian, I want you to understand your wife doesn't know who she is right now. She has literally had an identity transfer. What do you call that when you get a new organ? When you go for a heart transplant,
transplant.
she has had a new identity transplant. She is not knowing how to handle this right now. She does not know herself. You've got to give her space to get to know herself. You've got to give her time to get to know this woman. And then you've got to get to know this woman. You not only have to, you got to keep your hands off of her. Keep, hold yourself back. This is new for you. You love it, but she's got to have time to catch up to this new identity and this new body. I had a new body. Ladies, there's nothing I will not talk about. And I'm watching my children out there. They'll probably not listen to this, but let me explain to you physically, when you lose 120 pounds, there are things on your body that move. There are things that used to be somewhere that might have brought you pleasure that are not in the same place anymore because physically it moves. When you remove the body fat, okay, when you uncover certain things, we're talking about intimacy here. When you uncover some things, you have to find them again. Okay. So not only is there relationship changes, there's physical changes. And so you have to be very verbal with your partner, very verbal, saying, honey, that doesn't work anymore. Honey, this is where it is now. You have to be very verbal. Am I speaking so you understand what I'm saying, Darcy?
I believe so.
All right. I'm watching your eyes. If you don't see this live, we are live and I'm watching her just to make sure I don't have to say it.
I just had an itch on my leg.
I don't have to say it. My mom told me we don't say certain words.
I know we don't say certain things.
But we have to, because women, you have to speak up for yourself. Yeah. And you have to let your partner know it's not his fault. He knows one way. It's not his fault because you have changed. And it's a physical thing. You've got to be verbal. You have to tell him it is not your fault. Don't say it in that way, but say, hey, maybe over here. Okay. So there are physical things that change. And then, ladies, step 2, okay, if you have skin removal surgery, which some of you are going to, that also changes it. So not only does the weight loss change it, some of you, I hadn't seen things in a long time, right? Covered up, 250 pounds covered up. You don't see it, right? Suddenly you see it. Oh, wow. But when you get skin removal surgery, there's another layer of that because the lifts that they do when they pull the skin up changes things. Okay. If I'm not making myself clear, email me and I will be very clear with you. Okay. I don't know this whole podcasting thing. I don't know what is kosher to say and what's not, but ladies, you just have to be very verbal. That is the key. Now, I'm going to go here as well. Okay. So this is just me. I'm sorry. Yeah. It is me. There may be some tools that you have to use in order to find that yourself. Okay. There may be things that you cannot ask your partner to do. I wholeheartedly support that. Find it yourself, and then you can communicate to your husband and your spouse. Okay. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, email me and I will help you. Okay. Because Monica is not a sex therapist. But this is a reality, y'all. This is something that impacts our clients, and it's something that nobody is courageous enough to talk about, and I'm going to, right? So after the counseling, we may have to make this into a 2-part. I may have to pause this and then we start your story in part 2. Oh no. That might be a good idea. Might be a good idea. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But after the counseling, things started to really calm. Give yourself patience. Give yourself patience to know that there is not an end to this journey. You're going to have different feels. You're going to have different stages of the journey. You need to be patient and you need to understand that your those changes in your marriage, those changes in yourself, you've got to find yourself first because you cannot give yourself to a partner that you don't know who you are. Now, you can ask them to be patient. You can ask them to say, listen, I'm finding myself right now. And I'm not talking about going out and partying. I'm not talking about that. I'm just like talking about who am I now? What does my life look like now versus when I was, very, very sick. So you are not broken. Please know that you're going to go through all of these journeys in your weight loss journey. And it could go, I'm 7 years past my weight loss, and I'm still finding things about myself that I didn't know were there. He's still finding the difference is right now on this side. The difference is I'm letting him. Whereas before, when I was really into my own body change and my weight loss journey, I was resistant. And that was wrong. Completely wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do it. But now I am more communicative. I am more open to saying, hey, how are you feeling? Are we okay? The communication is open a little bit more. And letting him know that just because I'm in maintenance, just because my body had changed, does not mean my journey is over. It means that I'm finding new things about myself. It's like a layer of onions. Every time you take a layer off, there's more junk to be uncovered. Now that we've been in the maintenance journey for a while, it is a lot easier to open that communication. All right. And I have only talked about the marriage aspect, and there's a lot more that I could say. And when we put these stories together, I think we'll compare our stories and we'll be able to pull some more things out of our side, Darcy, because our side is completely different than our men. It is serious and it is real. When you go through these changes, embrace them. Okay. And so that's just a little bit about how it helped my journey. Once I found out what Brian was scared about, my counselor said, Monica, I need you to be willing to assure him all the time that he's okay, that he is attractive, that you want him, and that you're wanting more. You're wanting a relationship with him. You're wanting, and I need you to be more aggressively active in telling him that. When I was, it lightened the load, completely lightened the load. And also, he went through his own changes, in his physical form. So, Darcy, what do you think? What do you think? I want to hear your story now. Do you want to attach it to this podcast? Do you want to separate it? Do you want to keep
Well, I don't know
going?
if mine's going to be as long as
Okay.
yours.
All right. So we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going.
I mean, I can make it as long as you want it. I don't even know how long we're into this.
I
So,
don't know either. So yeah, let's keep going. I want you
all
to
right.
start with your story. And
Well,
and
for
maybe
mine,
our people can put pause, go. We're
Mhm.
kind of have a commercial here. Well, actually, I'll just put a commercial out here. Make sure if you are finding this hopeful, make sure you give us a review on wherever you're listening from. That really, really helps us in the progression, getting this out. The algorithm is what I'm saying. And make sure you find Coach Darcy's free coaching Facebook page, the Weight Loss Project, and my Facebook page. They're completely free. Food Addiction Recovery. Make sure you go over to Facebook and find those things. That's where you can connect with us. If anything has resonated with you, message us on Facebook, message us on the socials. If you have any questions, because every single one of you is going to relate with one of the stories here today. And so make sure you run over there, like us, and then come back because Darcy's going to tell her story. Darcy is 11 years younger than I am. We're sisters, by the way. I don't know if you knew that or not. She's 11 years younger than I am. So her perspective, coming from her weight loss journey, is completely different. And so you're kind of the younger voice of this. I'm the old one. We
Yeah.
we will have hit 29 years of marriage next week, 2 weeks. We'll have hit 29, and your anniversary is coming up as well. How
Yeah.
many for you?
17.
17.
Yeah.
So
We both married as babies, didn't we?
we did. I would do that over again.
I would
I
too.
am a proponent of young marriages. If you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Because
If
you
you
grow
know, you know.
together. You
Yeah.
grow together. So
Yeah,
tell us your story,
absolutely.
Darce,
And
and how did this
that's a good
well,
transition
yeah.
actually
Yeah.
into, because we did marry young and we didn't know what we were doing in life, and my weight gain started in college, but then blossomed when I was having babies. So there was always for me insecurity, and there was always am I good enough? I didn't do things because as I did gain the weight, I would that was like a holding me back for, and I know in different people's perspectives, like that is clearly just only in my head and my challenges and my battles, but nobody else really saw that. And as Mark and I aged together, he was always on the thin side. Like when we married, he would be able to just eat French fries, and I think French fries and mayo were his favorite thing. And he would gain an ounce from that until he hit a certain age, and then it started to pack on his back. He started becoming insulin resistant, um, and that, I think, with us both gaining more and more, like I was obviously overweight for a longer period of time, but then he started to follow that. And I've always tried, like I was always very aware of my weight, very insecure about my weight, but I didn't really have the oomph to want to change it enough. I would go on diets, but and try to eat healthier and go on that really hippie, like going on quinoa and everything organic. And I thought genetically modified was my problem. I thought, not eating heirloom tomatoes were my problem. I was always active. I was always, never really saw it as an issue. But then when I hit 30, that's when I was clotheslined. And then the aches and pains started to happen. And I was just, my temper was very short. I felt like emotionally I was unstable. And that was more of the big picture with me, is I was just emotionally unbalanced, and I would build things up and then I'd blow up, and then I'd build things up and then I'd blow up again. And it was just never able to truly embrace being a mom, being a wife. I don't remember a lot of my marriage, unfortunately. My memory of my childhood, my memory of marriage and college, there's like, hit and miss of things that I remember. But we were just talking the other day about certain cars that we used to have, and I'm like, I don't remember this time. I don't remember this vacation. I don't remember. And who knows what that was, other than my brain just being so slow and foggy and just blocking everything in my life. And as a mom, I felt guilt because I was not able to give my kids the things that they truly needed, the patience that they needed. I felt like I had to live up to this standard, this world was telling me that I had to live up to, and I had to be somebody special. I felt like I had to constantly just be a people pleaser. That's who I was. So when I found some sort of way with a MLM company, that was like the opening of like, okay, I'm going to lose this weight. I'm going to be healthier. And yes, the vitamins helped, but it was very expensive. And that was the beginning of Mark being very patient with me. He knew that I had to have a change, but I had to do it on my own. And unfortunately, they've been very expensive changes and just almost worthless too. But there was times in our marriage. I'm just remembering at our last house that we lived in, the the um lack of feeling important to him, to Mark, and feeling like I was not enough, and that he works with women all the time. So there was a lot of jealousy on my part because they were skinnier, they worked in the banking industry, so they had a lot more to give. He was able to have conversations with them where he'd come home and not want to have conversations with me. There was a lot of that built up. And I felt like it was because of my parents and because of the fact that I went to art school. Like, what can you do with that? There's a lot of things you can do with art school. I just didn't do them. I was a mom. Uh, so that was my focus, and I didn't feel uh, enough for anybody. And but I was obviously enough for my kids, but I didn't see it, and I feel guilt about that. So when I went to this MLM company thinking that this was going to be the game changer, I was going to lose weight like all these women that were selling it, and they were, be all fit. Yes, did I lose weight because I changed what I was consuming, but I was still eating more than what I probably should have. And then, lo and behold, this sister of mine decided that she was going to go on her journey and she was surpassing me. And I was like doing all the right things in my head. I was doing all the right things. Even when they brought keto into our MLM, like, you can go keto now. And that was the huge rave. And I did that for a week. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. This is nonsense. I wasn't doing it right. Um, but I watched her, and then that jealousy started happening again. And we have another sister, and I'd always go to her to vent, and I'd always go to her, be like, she's so annoying because she's so happy. she's like, she's like always gloating about how much weight she's losing and blah. It was like, it was really frustrating to me. And and Monica didn't see it because she was in her own journey, and she had no idea that I felt like this because I was a hit. There's probably some sort of word for it, but I was like a hidden uh jealousy keeper, but in it was two-faced. That's the word. I was being two-faced. Where I was happy and excited for her and into her face, but then behind her, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm doing all these things, and now she's smaller than me. And here's the thing. I don't know if you understand, if you've ever thought about this, Monica, but since you got married at a young age, and I too was like 7 when you got married, and then when you had Tony, you were it was like a year later, right? Something like that. So I was 8, maybe going on 9, and you started gaining the weight. I've always known you as like a larger size, and I didn't see you any different. I was like, Brian, like, that was who you are, and I just didn't see you any different. But and I was never like, I did not get overweight until I was in college. So, like, in my perspective, like, I did not see, like, when you started becoming smaller than me, I had like this numbness, like, what in the world? Like, she's smaller than me now. I'm having identity issues here. Like, I'm just struggling. So not only were your relationship was just as highlighting as Mark and I's journey with this. So anyway, you hit your goal, and you're like, you started this business, it was thriving, and you didn't make me, but you like gave me the opportunity to do this.
Bribed you.
You bribed me, because then to me, that was like it was a purpose, because I had started making this a business for myself, but with using jewelry. I made jewelry, and it was great jewelry.
I missed that business, by the way.
I'm a great jewelry maker.
I have no hookups now.
I gave you the opportunity a long time ago to take what my leftovers were. So there was that. Like, I did something as a stay-at-home mom to find purpose in my life and to feel needed. And I didn't feel that. I didn't even feel like having my jewelry business was needed. But that was another thing that Mark was patient with. He saw he saw this, and he was patient. He provided the funds for me to make this jewelry, which is also a lot of a money pit, because you can spend a lot on the materials. Art is not cheap. So doing this, in the meantime, he's gaining the weight. And there was a period of time where there was this situation where I became very jealous of how he was acting with these other women. And I don't necessarily believe I ever voiced that to him, but there was this one specific time that I was so angry with him, and there was a hidden trust where, like, yeah, I want to trust my husband because I know he wouldn't do something like that, but that underlining self, that enemy, that red dog that we talk about, was just
Mm-hmm.
yapping at me, saying, no, you need to be jealous, you need to be on guard, you need to feel terrible about yourself because you don't compare to these other women that he works with, you're not as smart as them, you're not as. So that was like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Powerful.
the depression that was getting me deeper into a depression. I'm an extrovert. I'm more of an ambivert. Like, I'm both.
Mm-hmm.
I like my self time, but I also like, I thrive around people. And I was becoming more of an introvert and hiding, and becoming more of a recluse and not wanting to be around people. I was gathering these women around that kind of had just as much low self-esteem as myself, and that we were each other's community. And when introverts hang out together,
Mm.
there's like zero motivation. There's things that we would like to do, but for the most part, we're very just no motivation. And but food was our comfort. We celebrated with food, and we, that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
So then you asked me if I would do that, and I was like, okay, well, let me talk to Mark about this. And I already had made my mind up, but I just thought, like, okay,
You hide
Mark,
your feminist, don't you?
I you know what? We were trained well. I'm very much an old school feminist, where I believe that, I'm gonna make my own mind up. I know what I want. I know who I am. I don't see, the fair part in society for the most part for women, but and by golly, we are very strong. We are
Mm-hmm.
so strong and underestimated. Like, so yeah, our parents raised us well,
Oh
and
yeah,
so
they
I
did.
Mark understands that, and I know, like, he doesn't verbalize it, but I know that he knows that I'm
Mhm.
pretty much made my mind up
Mhm.
on certain things. Um, but we talked about it. He's like, well, if you're going to do this, then, like, I might as well do it too, because you're going to cook the food anyway. As a joke. He's very sarcastic. He likes to make jokes. That's just his
Mhm.
personality. And a lot of disclaimer that Monica said at the beginning goes along with Mark. He loves me. He had no intentions of seeing these other women. Like, he is true to me and amazing, and I love him, and so on and so forth. So that's the same disclaimer. I will not say anything bad about him. I may have feelings.
Oh,
I
yeah.
may have feelings at certain times.
Mine likes to spend a lot of time in the deer stand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But we are still, like, at 17 years into our marriage, we are still learning, we're still
Mhm.
communicating or not communicating, we still have those battles.
Mhm.
But that's what I would agree with, like, we grow together, and that this is a highlight in our journey where we were on the same page with something, and we grew together with this lifestyle. Now, did he go through Coach Monica's program like I did? No, he just did what I did, and he
Mhm.
didn't really learn the whys. And then he's out trying to promote this to other people. I'm like, you're not, you don't know what you're saying. Don't say that. Anyway, so our journey started during COVID, and it gave us an opportunity to really focus and hone in on what we're eating. As we were losing weight, whether or not we did it the correct way and followed the program 100%, I think at that time, Coach Monica was still building her program and learning and doing all that stuff. So I was kind of the guinea pig in it. Um, but as we did this, we lost the weight in about 8 months. So we lost at the same rate. We when one would lose 5 pounds, the other one would lose 5 pounds that week. If one lost 1 pound, the other one. If one gained, the other one would gain. So we were matching together. I lost more because about 10 pounds more because I had more to lose. But the thing is that Mark did not understand. and see himself as large. And I think this is very common with men, and that they may have the dad bod and they don't see that weight. It's invisible to them. They might have aches and pains and wonder why their knees always hurt or why they keep having muscle spasms, but they don't understand that that weight is on their gut and they shouldn't have that there. And Mark did not see that. He's like, I did not realize how much weight I had on my body that shouldn't have been there. And he lost about 60 to 65 pounds. I was 70. So we were very, very close in how much we lost together. It helped us be a healthier family, a more active family. We, during COVID, we would, take walks with our boys, not only because we were stir crazy, wanted to get out, but we then made it intentional to do more things with our kids. And that was also a bonding moment. But what happened during this time is, yes, there are changes and there are seasons like Monica was talking about in your relationship, that he feels great about himself. He's doing the things. He's feeling more active. There's a lot more attraction that he didn't realize that he didn't necessarily, he had the attraction, but didn't really have the attraction before. And then I gave him a reason to have that attraction. Then vice versa. There was things, that were kind of off-putting because of certain things and the weight gain in the belly and that sort, but didn't mean that I loved him less or was attracted to him less. It was just something that became normal. And then once that all came off, then you could see that he felt good and he could tell that I felt good. And then the thing that I get caught off guard with, being in a maintenance mode right now, and I'm not in maintenance mode right now. I'm on like weight loss mode, right? But before I was just, going down, living life, coaching, doing the things. I wore a two-piece for the first time in my entire life, like 3 years ago, which was a huge aha, like a wow, this is not so bad. And I'm feeling comfortable with all of my stretch marks. But then as I was getting used to the body that I'm living in, that's when I started becoming insecure again. And things started to arise in the marriage, and he probably wouldn't even notice this, because I think guys' perspective, we talked about this the other day, where men, they compartmentalize different things, or like as important or not important. And women, we just throw it into one giant box and we see everything, we feel everything, we have emotions about everything. We assume that the man's thinking this, but really he didn't even think about that. Like that was the last thing he thought about. And Mark is that type of person where in conversation, he never thought about certain things. So whomever, when he is on here, who knows what he's going to say? It's probably going to be like all peachy and everything's fine. So
It's kind of scary.
it is kind of scary, but I don't feel like he would say a lot based on the emotional side of the marriage. But I know that there's the changes in myself, and the insecurities started to arise again, because I felt like I should look a certain way. And I'm comparing to myself to women that have never gained weight other than having babies possibly. And then they just, changed back into their old bodies, and they were maybe aware of the food and what they're supposed to eat, what they're not supposed to eat. I don't know that. I was not taught about that. I'm living life and being insecure again. And that's really hard to see. And he sees how many times I change clothes based on how I feel. And so I think his perspective is he sees that insecurity, but by golly, the other thing that is complete opposite of that is when I did lose the weight, that changed my confidence level and my mission and what I believe that God is calling me to do. And it was kind of like my weight loss was me being a Jonah, where like, no, God, I'm not going to do that, because I I'm not thin. I don't have the words. I don't know how to speak. I don't believe that this is where I need to be because I'm not confident in who I am and what I could do. But in a lot of ways, that was just pride
Mm-hmm.
coming out. And once I didn't have an excuse anymore, once I got myself back into a healthier lifestyle, that's when he was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this was your last, this is the bottom of the barrel. Like you kept putting me off and putting me off. And now you hear me and you're listening. So now you're going to go and do things. And so I ended up having zero boundaries because I'm like, okay, God wants me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I know he wants to. I heard him loud and clear. So that's when I could see the frustration that I was just volunteering for everything.
Yeah.
And
Overconfidence a little
I
bit.
was overconfident, but I wanted to. And I think I was making up for lost time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but we missed
And
so much. We missed. I always say I'm sorry to my kids because I just wasted 25 years of my life. And in the same breath, now we're helping women get their life back.
Mhm,
And we couldn't have done that without our journey. Like the
right,
things we're doing now, we couldn't have done. It's, it's hard. It's terrible to say this, but it's, if you're skinny, if you've never been overweight in your life, it's very hard to help somebody find their identity and their healing because you've not experienced that. And so
right.
what I'm hearing you say is your growth hasn't stopped. So once we hit
No.
120 pounds, once we hit 75 pounds, we went on to another journey. And the temptation is to say, well, I made it here. I got my weight off and now it's over. And that is that's why people gain the weight back because they think it's over. And then they go on to this other part of overconfidence and potentially stopping their lifestyle because they're so confident and then they gain the weight back. Whereas what we have to get into our clients, when we have our year clients, we're the most successful with them because we can take them through this portion of, well, the weight may be off, but now I have to do some hard mental work. I remember when my pastor sent me to counseling. I said, I don't want to open those cans of worms. And he said, well, that can of worms is going to turn into maggots. And if you don't talk about it and if you don't work through this, you're going to have a hot mess on your hand. And so that was my first time of realizing that just because the weight was off, now I have to do the hard thing and go through the mental side of this, go through the counseling side. And that was harder than the weight loss. But then realizing that it could change again. We are now empty nesters at our house. And so our marriage is changing because of that. And understanding, I think when you understand the different phases that your life goes through and be okay with change and be okay with talking through and being honest and being saying, okay, this is a obstacle. You guys are in baseball right now. Okay, this is our season right now. We may have to deal with some weight loss things here. We may have to deal with some mental things here. We may have to deal with this. And if we're open to not ending the journey, that's the success. That is when you keep it off. That is not to say you're not going to struggle, but when we say we reach the end, the magical number on the scale, you're going to fail. You're going to fail because you got more work to do. So,
Right.
yeah.
So to continue, so with my volunteering and doing all that sort, with what God was calling me to do, Mark was feeling a little jealous. He was getting, not, I don't think he would say he was jealous, but he was getting frustrated that I was volunteering for everything. So that kind of got in the way, that confidence that I had. And so that caused some tension because of that, but I wouldn't change anything. And he knows that, that's what I believe. And I think that's him also learning how God is using me as a disciple. And uh, so he's been very patient with me throughout this whole entire thing. And you can tell with him is that his he would say his golf game got really good when he lost his weight. And so he plays golf very often. And I really believe that his confidence has built up based on how he feels and the energy and the weight loss that he's lost. And he's impacted a lot of people in his world. like, man, Mark, how have you lost so much weight? Or, and then he's able to just give his testimony about, well, my wife made me do this. So, and then we just did this together. And then, so there's a lot. I love what it's done with our marriage, because I talked about the activities that we did it during COVID, but it continued on where we would go and work out together. And that was starting to become a new love language of getting to work out together or be together and be active in that. So, that's just more of the relationship with Mark and I. I'm sure that there's something that I'm missing out. But
it probably will come up in the men's interview
after I'm done talking.
You're like, oh
but
man.
I know that the support was amazing. I know there's been a lot of frustration, but every single season that we have had and every year that we've done this, I know that he would say he would never change a thing. That he feels amazing, that now that we're doing carnivore, like that's another one. He's like, man, my wife drags me into these things. And then he sees the benefit from it. And
how's he feeling?
He's feeling great. Like, I believe that he says, oh, well, I normally eat carnivore anyway, but we all know that's not true.
Yeah. I realized that with the detox I went through. I was not as carnivore as I thought.
But the biggest thing for me, and we can probably pinpoint about relationships later, about other people's relationships.
Yeah.
But
that'll be a whole separate show.
That's another whole
this was
thing.
A good one.
But I do believe that in the end, I know that we are able to give our kids a lot more. My depression is gone. And and there are obviously women's cycle things I'm still figuring out, that those moods that he's still trying to figure out. But in understanding how I work, but that's what the best thing about marriage is that you get to go through different seasons. You get to learn. And when somebody starts to do a new changing, and then the other person goes through changing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be driven apart. It just means that if you work hard at it and you communicate and you work on your relationship with the creator, like, you are going to grow together in this. And I feel like this helped us grow together, which, before the jealousy, the depression, the lack of communication, we still have lack of communication, but it's gotten better. Lack of communication, all of those things were driving us apart, and they were causing strife, and they were causing division up front. But this was a thing that, started to bind us together and have common ground. And he loves it when I go out to the barn with him now to help him change out parts on the car, or, that is his bonding time. And before, I would be like, forget that. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't have energy.
Get off the couch. Right.
Yeah. Like, so it took me off the couch, but now this is something that we do together, and we golf together now. We're very active. And to me, that's because I have the energy, I have the clarity, I have all these, I have a purpose.
Yeah.
And I know what my purpose is a lot more than what I used to.
One of the things I found most helpful, and we're going to close out the show today, we may divide this into two. I may figure out my editing skills. So we may kind of do part one, part two on this, if I can figure out how to edit. I may call you in for some assistance on that. But one of the things I found to be the most helpful is to not surprise Brian with the next thing. If I give him, hey, honey, here's my goal, it doesn't scare him enough as much. So with the carnivore thing, and this is just something for the podcasters, this is just something we're doing a 30-day challenge. Instead of saying, without telling him I'm doing this, I say, listen, honey, I want to work on getting rid of the inflammation. I want to learn. I've got about, 10 pounds I would like to release on my body. I want to make it a goal to do this. If I give him a heads up of what my goals are, it gives him a chance to adapt to it and to say, okay, that's why she's doing, where I did not do that before. I just said, here we are. I was a whirlwind. Here we are. This is what I'm doing. And he couldn't catch up. And so I've realized, and even with you working for me, I've kind of realized the same thing with you, except for the carnivore challenge. I threw that one at you. But I'm realizing that if I explain why we're doing what we're doing, This is my goals. I'm not leaving you behind. He's like, all right, okay. It brought peace. And that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the tools the counselors gave us is, here's the communication tools that, maybe you thought you had that really you didn't. So we're going to do a couple of parts. And again, I don't know if we're going to divide this one into two. If I can figure it out, I think it would be cool if I could do that. Have Coach Monica story, Coach Darcy, and then bring it together. I don't know, but somebody may know how to do that. And then we're going to come together again next session and talk about relationships around us, how it impacted our friendships, our relationships with our church, relationships with others around us. And then we're going to bring the guys in. So this is going to kind of be a 4-part series, I think, if I can figure it out. If not, it's going to be a 3-part series and a really long session today. So hopefully you're still with us. And I hope you've gotten something out of this. This is a reality for y'all. We're not going, my goal as the CEO of KM Health Coaching is to be authentic. I will not hire a coach that's not authentic. And you're going to see the good, the bad, the ugly. Some of this was ugly, some of this was good, but we hope that we've left you with hope. We hope that we have left you with the fact that you're not broken, your relationship is not broken, and you're going to make it. You're going to make it through this. And if you embrace these seasons instead of reject them, you're going to get more out of it. And it's going to make your weight loss journey faster as well, because you're going to lower the cortisol. You're going to get rid of needless fights, needless things. So we hope you join us next time when we talk about the relationships around us. Here's a precursor for that. Coach Darcy and I don't have the same friends as we used to have.
It's true.
So, and we'll also talk about the spiritual impact because bodies, minds, and spirits are connected. And when one is sick, they share each other's diseases. That's what my pastor always said. So we hope that this has helped you. Darcy, you have any final closing words?
No, I can't wait for the next one.
I know. This one was scary. This one was scary to me. And again, if you have heard something in this that you're like, hey, you're not clear about this, would you go in deeper? There's nothing we won't talk about.
Right.
We'll shoot straight with you, because it's our goal to make you know that you're not alone and that you're not an island and that you need people.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope this has helped you. Wow, there's thunder out there. We hope this has helped you, and we hope that you join us for our second session on relationships and weight loss. Bye-bye.
Bye.